Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to Financing Your Fourth Feature and Beyond. I am Emily Smart. I'm the filmmaker liaison with Filmmaker Success. And here at Filmmaker Success, we like to make movies, make money, and make the world a better place. Today, Joanne Butcher is the one who will be running the workshop. She is a consulting producer with over 100 independent filmmakers under her belt. With a wealth of experience in fundraising and distribution, Joanne has a proven track record to facilitate the sale of numerous feature films and participating in the distribution of 22 features. As an expert in fundraising, Joanne has supported her clients through various channels, including major donors, grants, foundations, corporate sponsorships, and over 40 successful crowdfunding campaigns. Her involvement with organizations such as Brown Girls Doc Mafia, Slam Dance, the Brazilian Film Festival in Miami, and the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival have made her an integral part of the film community. As the founder of Unstoppable, a disability film festival, and a frequent judge at the Forever Foundation, Joanne has been dedicated to mentoring and developing the careers of young creatives. Joanne's experience extends beyond fundraising and distribution, as she has directed a first-run cinema and film school in Miami Beach, Florida, where she created the Florida Feature Film Competition. The competition has provided filmmakers with a platform to uplevel their business and marketing packages while competing for a $200,000 surprise. Not surprise, prize. With 143 feature films in various stages of development. From script to distribution, Joanne's specialty lies in helping filmmakers raise funds to get their projects made and distributed globally. Her extensive network and expertise in the film industry make her the go-to consultant for independent filmmakers seeking support with fundraising and distribution. And without further ado, here she comes.
Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And I thought, oh, nobody's going to come to this class. Nobody's thinking about their fourth film. Who's thinking about their fourth film?
I'm here. You look great. You look great, by the way.
Pardon?
You look great, by the way. You look great.
Oh, thank you so much. You look great too.
No problem.
So I was like, nobody's going to come. Nobody's thinking about their fourth film. So I'm really glad to see that a lot of you are here. I would love it if you would come on camera, because then we can interact a little bit. Hi, Armando. Hi, Rick. Good to see you. Hi, Tara. First of all, I would like to, well, you heard all about me, so I don't need to say anything else about me. Hi, Ching. Hi, Katrina. Long time. But I'd like to find out who we have in the room and find out what on earth made you come to a class about making your fourth feature film. All right. So how many people here have made at least one feature film? How many people have made one feature film? Okay. We got a few. How many have made more than one feature film? Okay. How many have raised the money to make those feature films? Katrina, what does that mean? What's that?
I'll explain
Oh.
when it's my turn to talk.
Later. Oh, okay. All right. Ching, you raised the money to make your film? You're muted.
Okay. No, I did not raise. I just used my own money.
Okay, well, that's a very, very good distinction to make, right? The difference between using my own money and raising money. Those are two very different things. Who has made 3 feature films so far? Mario, I've never met you before. Great to meet you. How many films have you made, Mario?
16. 16.
That's amazing. Are they all feature films?
Yeah.
Are they in any particular genre or anything like that?
Yeah, like Amazon Prime, Tubi TV.
Are they any particular genre?
I'm gonna say mostly urban drama films.
Urban drama. Are they thrillers? Do they have, are people dying in them? Is there crime, anything like that?
Say that again.
Is there crime or anything like that in the films?
A little bit, you know, mine's is just dealing with urban movies, something that I experienced a lot growing up. But a lot of them have very strong messages behind them.
Mhm.
And what I will say is, I just would make movies. I had some in Blockbuster, but I would take the return and put it back into my next film. So whatever money that I would make, I wouldn't go out and go celebrate. I would just invest in my next film.
Right, right, right. The reason I was asking if there was crime in your films is because a lot of times filmmakers tell me their films are dramas when they're really thrillers.
No, no thrillers, all urban dramas.
They're dramas. Okay. Well, lovely to meet you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Now what question did I not ask? Okay, so how many of you have raised money to make your films? 2, 3. Rocio has. Mike. Mike, I don't think I've met you before. Have I met you before, Mike? Mike Stahl?
No, although I've been on some calls that you've had before, once or twice. Few months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet
So
you.
Mike, sorry?
Nice to meet you.
Mike has raised money. Katrina is now finally admitting, yes, I've raised money.
Finally.
Mario has raised money. That's great. That's great. Basically, the way I think is that if you haven't yet raised money to make your film, you will. You will eventually have to learn how to raise money to make your films. You know, it's like you can make a short film, maybe you can make a small budget feature film by saving up money. But eventually, if you want to keep making movies, if you want to keep growing your filmmaking career, you're going to need to learn how to raise money. So I figure, let's start now. And I'm always looking at how can we better prepare ourselves for that point and for raising money. And I teach 7 different ways of raising money. That includes donors, grants, corporate sponsorship, foundations. Can't remember them all. And a lot of people, by the time they get to their 4th film, they're really talking about investors. With documentary filmmakers, it's a little different. I have a client right now. He's probably my most advanced client. His name is Thomas Allen Harris, and he's on his maybe 8th feature. We raised $2 million to make a series, and now we've raised $750,000 towards making his next documentary feature. But documentaries tend to not work with investors, but fiction tends to work with investors. There are reasons for that, but I'm not going to get into that today. So I wanted to teach this class, and I wanted to talk about making your 4th feature, because I really want all of you, except Mario, who's already way past that, to really be, each film you're making, to be looking towards your 2nd, your 3rd, your 4th feature. Because if you want to keep up a filmmaking career, you're going to have to keep making movies. And I hope you want to keep making movies, right? So you want to keep making movies. And each time you make a movie, you have more access to money, more access to a larger network. And so every time you make a film, your goal is looking forward to the films that are coming up down the road. So let's say we've all made 3 films. I have one client right now who's making his 4th fiction film with me. and I have two documentary filmmakers. One is Thomas Allen Harris. One is Andrea Kalin. They're both way down the road. Andrea's on her 13th feature film that she's making, and we're raising money for a film that is very politically timely. She wants to get it out before the next election, and we're raising about $150,000 on top of the film costs for an impact campaign for that film. So with your first three films, you are building your network and building your access to money. And a lot of times when I start working with filmmakers, they'll say, well, you know, I don't know anybody with money. I don't know anybody with money. So, but the thing is that your film is actually the thing that gets you access to people with money. Having a film to offer people with money is what you're going to use to open those doors. So with your first film, you know, maybe you don't get to open too many doors. Maybe you don't get to meet too many people. Maybe you just raise a little bit of money. You know, I have a lot of filmmakers who start working with me, and I say, you know, I want to have a minimum of $40,000 to make a film. And, you know, by Hollywood standards, $40,000 is about enough to, you know, pay the catering, you know, so it's nothing. But if you look at money in a real way, $40,000 is a lot of money. You could buy yourself a very fancy car with $40,000. You could put on a down payment on a house with $40,000. But I like to have that as a minimum, because with $40,000, you can make a micro budget feature film and everybody gets paid. And I really like to have everybody get paid. So for your first film, you know, scramble, make money, get money here and there from people, make your first film. And really, you know, what I want you to be looking for with your first film is to make sure that you get distribution, because a lot of filmmakers are not thinking about distribution when they're making their film. So I want you to start thinking about distribution before you make your first film. And so as you go from one film to the next film, you're going to want to look at increasing the amount of money that you're making in returns at the box office. So we've now made 3 films, and now we're going to make our 4th feature. And I want to just go through some things that I want you to think about as you're making your 4th feature film. So first of all, I want for you to think about proving the quality of your work. And the truth is, everybody here who's a filmmaker really cares, as far as I can tell, only cares about the quality of their work. They're much less interested in money than in the quality of their work. They want their work to be really good. They want it to be excellent. And I think it's really important to have excellent films and excellent projects to work with, whether it's a documentary or a script. So how can you prove the quality of your films, of your scripts, of your projects? How can you prove that they are excellent? Pretend we're making our 4th film now. How can you prove that your film is excellent? How could you do that? Anybody? I don't know, maybe I'm not asking it clearly. Katrina, have it go.
Hi.
How could you prove the quality, the excellence of your film?
With I was just like looking up my films on IMDb just now to see like where they all were. Probably with sort of the specs of the film, who it was picked up by, distributed by.
The first 3, what the first 3,
yeah,
the first 3 did, yeah.
yeah.
This one, the 4th one, how do we show the excellence of that film to people? What are some ways you could do that? It hasn't been made yet.
Okay.
Director Smooth. I love your name, Director Smooth.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It took a lot to cultivate, but I believe to understand the quality of your film, as a filmmaker, I believe there's a lot of elements as far as like editing, sound design, how
We
things
haven't
are
made the film yet. We haven't made the film yet. We're making our
okay.
full film.
So just the
How do we
package,
show the quality?
by the package, I guess the package you put together, I'm trying to pitch it. As far as like the genre, the talent, do you have either future talent you could feel like it can be somebody, or somebody is already stapled that people can have attraction to, and the demographic and market that you're trying to essentially distribute the film to, all that together in a pitch.
I'm just talking now about excellence.
Mm.
How could we show somebody that our film is excellent? If it's a fiction film, particularly, how can we do that?
The script.
Yeah. So how do we know? How can we show anybody that our script is excellent?
What the story is and how it's being told.
Yeah, but there are some very, very clear ways in our industry that you can get validation for how excellent your script is.
Putting it
Katrina.
in competitions.
Yep. What kind of competitions?
Like getting it maybe on the Blacklist or Coverfly or something.
Yeah.
Or in festivals, script writing festivals.
Yeah. You can enter. It's just so funny because
but it hasn't been made yet.
It hasn't been made yet. It's just
but the script can. That's what we're doing with our fourth feature, putting the script in a lot of. It's gone into like a bunch of different script writing competitions, just to sort of get it up into. Right now we're doing like with Coverfly, and it's in the top 5% of like all the discoverable films right now, the scripts. So out of like, you know, a couple 100,000 scripts, it's in the top, which is great to like tell people.
Yes, that your script is standing out. Which script are you talking about now? Because I can never keep up with Katrina.
I know. This one is called No Rules. It's a drag queen buddy comedy.
Right. Okay. I remember it well. I remember it. Thank you. Yeah. So you can show the excellence of your script. And the reason I was really thinking about this was that I just met with my most recent clients today, and we read this wonderful script. It was just excellent. But 2 weeks ago at our last meeting, we read another script that was just superb. You know, and I'm not just saying this, but they were just superb. So, you know, I was telling them, you really want to go and enter your script into some competitions. The way I like to do it, Emily, maybe you can do this for me, is to Google top 20 screenwriting competitions and, you know, enter some of those. And it always costs money. So, you know, think about a budget that you want to spend. But it's really great to get that kind of external validation. I know a lot of times filmmakers like to go and get their scripts read, but get feedback on their scripts. But I find that is not as useful because those readers are usually looking at the quality of the writing, but we're talking about making films. But I do think competitions are really great. I've had a client win the Blue Cat screenplay competition. I had a client get placed in the quarterfinals of the Nichols Fellowship, and doing that well in a screenwriting competition can radically shift your filmmaking career. Getting placed in anywhere in Nichols can make you a script writing career. Not that that's what you want to do. All you people want to produce. Mario, go ahead.
I got a question, because I've been in the business for so long, and I think for myself, the quality of my films keep getting better because at first I started off using film. I've been filming since the 80s. So,
right.
So then I transitioned. So now what I do, which is my latest film that I've done, which was 2017, was a film called My Culture. And what I had to do was I made sure that I shot with a high, powerful red camera, and then I brought quick lenses to give it an extra look like film. So where I'm at right now, this could probably help some other filmmakers because I'm a real director. I'm like a screenwriter, but my gift is as a director, but wrote many scripts, got rejected. But what ended up happening with my upcoming project, this may help some other filmmakers out there, is I got it to a casting agency. The casting agency loved the screenplay.
Oh, great.
Casting agency put me in contact with Danny Glover. Everybody knows Danny Glover. He fell in love with my script and he wants to be a part of it. The script was rewritten like 5 times until we got it to this particular point. So what I would like to just share with other filmmakers is if you have an ideal of something, so you may send it to a competition, you may not win. That doesn't mean that your script is bad. You just have to find somebody who believes in you. And I got fortunate, and we're trying to raise money now, but you just have to find somebody that believes in your vision. So I just thought I would
That's
share.
awesome. Thank you. And Mario, I have a podcast every other week. We've got to get you on. Got to get you on.
And I want to be, and this is my first time, but I teach full time. I teach multimedia filmmaking at a school. So I'm on the West Coast. So I don't get until 2:30. So that's been my problem. A lot of your podcasts is early in the morning, but.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
No, we'll keep it late for you.
Thank you.
Which school do you teach at, Mario?
It's called DeJean Middle School in Richmond, California.
Awesome. I know Richmond very well. I lived in San Francisco for a long time. Yeah, I know Richmond very well. Thank you, Mario. So once you're moving along with your career on your 4th film, so now you have a script. Now, if you want to get some validation that your script is excellent, competitions, what Mario said is really true, because the next thing you can do is take that script and start trying to attach more people to your project. Because yes, it doesn't mean, if you don't win a competition, doesn't mean that the script is bad. So also now on your 4th film, you have 3 films already that are already produced and are already ideally in distribution. So now that you're starting to raise money for your 4th film, you want to be able to say, I have 3 films in distribution and my films are making money. And that is something that I would like you to start thinking about now, whether you've made a feature film or not. Start thinking about, I'm going to have a film, it's going to be in distribution and it's going to be making money. So each time you make another film, you can show your investors that you have a film that's already making money. So the second thing, after proving the excellence of your script, you want to prove the financial viability of your projects through the distribution that you have already with your films. I have a client who is he just finished post-production on his 3rd feature film. And the first 2 films he made, he didn't make any money on them. They are in distribution, but they haven't made any money. And so I introduced him to a sales agent that I've been working with, and the sales agent really encouraged him. And he said, get this 3rd film made, because as you get a film, as the film does well, it'll actually improve how well your 2nd and your 1st films are doing. So my client went ahead, made the 3rd film, and now it's ready to go into distribution, and he's looking at all different places for distribution. So even if the 1st and 2nd films haven't done particularly well, then the fact that they're in distribution, they may very well do better. One of the things that has come up recently, I have a friend, Gary Sales, anybody who's been on my Clubhouse on Tuesdays at 12:30 Eastern. I know it's a bit early, Mario, but it's 9:30 in your time. But Gary made a film called Madman, not to be confused with the series. It was a horror film, micro-budget horror film he made about 30 years ago. And that film is making more money today than it has ever made in the past. And that's because of AVOD, advertising supported video on demand, Tubi, Freevee, all of those free platforms. But he has a film that was made 30 years ago that's now making more money than it has in the past. AVOD didn't even exist before 10 years ago. Pluto TV, which was the first AVOD platform I ever came across, was founded 10 years ago in August of this year. So we have a new income stream that wasn't even open to filmmakers 10 years ago. So every film that you make will start to build on how you've made money before. So, but better than that would be to have films that had actually made money, you know, so to have films in distribution. I have a feeling Mario's films make money because they're in a genre that is of very great interest to large audiences. And particularly with the rise of AVOD, I think I taught a class called The Rise of AVOD one time. But one of the things that's happened is that African-American, LGBT, minority filmmakers that have been getting short shrift in traditional distribution are doing very, very well on advertising supported video on demand platforms. So if you are speaking to an underserved audience, now is your time, because people are able to find you, they're able to find your work, they're able to find your stories, and your films are going to do well. So we're on our fourth film, we're making our fourth feature. I still haven't got to the raising money bit. I'm just doing the preparation. There's always this sort of preparation before that time. By the time you are making your fourth film, I think that one of the less sexy things about the filmmaking process, I think you should consider, is building a team that's not just the team that you have on set. So when you are a filmmaker, you have your favorite DP and they have their favorite gaffer and you have your favorite first AD and all of that. That's great. But once you get to this point in your career, you really need to have a team. You really can't be working by yourself anymore. And your team, when I start with a new client, one of the first things I do is ask if they have an entertainment lawyer. And usually the answer is no. That's for people on their first film. By your fourth film, you already have an entertainment lawyer, but you may need to have a bookkeeper, an accountant, all of these things that are not very exciting, but they are what is going to have your filmmaking business. Because if you're in your fourth feature film, that's what it is. You are running a business, and you need to have these other pieces in place. You need to have your bookkeeping, your accounting. If you start to do anything fancy, like tax credits, SAG paperwork, anything like that is going to cause you, that is a lot of work. And so as a producer, I see Katrina identifying, you're going to need to have help with all of that huge amount of paperwork. Today, I had a meeting with one of my clients. I've talked about her before. She's in Puerto Rico. She won a grant for $1.3 million to make her film. And the Puerto Rican government the money is actually federal money. It's US COVID money. And the Puerto Rican government decided to use the money to use it as economic development and pay for films. So they put $74 million into films, and there are 29 projects being made, and my clients is one of them. So I don't know if you know the kind of paperwork that the federal government requires. If they're giving money away, that is some serious paperwork. You know, if you're a documentary filmmaker, by your fourth feature, you may decide that you want to start getting some federal money. How many documentary filmmakers do we have on tonight? Ching is one. Rocio, that's great. Director Smoot, you're a documentary filmmaker? I would never have imagined.
Yeah,
Okay.
documentary, short films, and also features. I'm very versatile, but I have a passion for documentaries just by watching it and the introduction, the story, and so many different ways documentaries can be made. It's that's one of my underrated core values of filmmaking.
Yeah, yeah. Documentaries are great. And by the time you get to your fourth feature, you may really want to be thinking about federal money. And the two main grants that you would consider at that point are the National Endowment for the Humanities or the National Science Foundation. And so I have a client, we are putting in a grant in January, I think it is, to the National Science Foundation for $3.3 million. That's for a grant for a science-based project. And one of the things I've learned about working on that film is that there are all kinds of special pockets of money for science-based projects. Is anybody here making a film that's anything to do with science? No. Well, think about it, because there's definitely special money available for that. And the National Science Foundation really does big funding. But really, if you're going to apply to the NEH, the National Endowment for Humanities, or the National Science Foundation, or you're going to get something like the Puerto Rican grant, you really are going to be dealing with huge amounts of paperwork and accounting and bookkeeping and all of that. There's no way that one person can do it by themselves. Absolutely no way. And so I think filmmakers realize that filmmaking is a very collaborative activity, but the more that you grow in your filmmaking, the more that you're going to have to build a team around you that can help you with all of the pieces that are going to be growing, including admin and paperwork. So I think creating a team around you is really, really significant. The clients I have who are doing the best and who are making their third film, their fourth film, they've built a team that they keep working with the same people. And that is really a way that's going to help you make more and more films. So we've assessed the quality of the project. We've proved the financial viability by making money on the prior films, and we've created a team. And now I think we're ready to raise money. I see filmmakers get stuck in this particular place where they're making the films, they're writing the films, they're making the films, they're raising the money, they're doing all of the paperwork stuff, and it's just too much. So at some point, you're going to have to delegate and have other people to take care of some of that work for you. So with the raising the money for your fourth film, for documentary filmmakers, when I teach those 7 types of fundraising, but I just couldn't even finish the list, but donors, grants, foundations, corporate sponsors, as you start in your first film, you might only have been able to raise money through crowdfunding. Everybody can raise money through crowdfunding. Short film, documentaries, features, whatever. Everybody can do that. But as you grow, you have more types of fundraising available to you. So maybe you get your first grant, maybe you get your second grant. By the time I'm working, say, with Thomas Allen Harris, all of a sudden now we're making this film, it's about science, and all of a sudden every single grant we're applying to practically we get, you know. But he's been making movies for 25 years. So when it comes to the raising the money, if you're a documentary filmmaker, what happens when you get to your fourth film is that you have far more income streams open to you. So with Thomas's film, probably we're going to be able to get some really good corporate sponsorship with this film. And we haven't been able to do that before, even though we've raised millions of dollars, you know. But so the more doors are open to you. I call it diversifying your portfolio. So you can get money from donors, you can get money from grants, you can get money from crowdfunding, you can get money from corporate sponsors. And all of that adds up to your funding mix. My client, Andrea Kalin, who's on her 13th feature film, she also has multiple projects all happening at the same time. So this one is going to get funding from the National Endowment for the Humanities. This one is going to get funding from various foundations. This one is going to get funding from major donors and grants and. So once you can grow enough to have a whole team that's working full time, you want to make sure that you don't end up being the only one who does the fundraising. So I always say that you want to build your fundraising team early on. And certainly by the time you're on your 4th feature film, you want to make sure that you are not the only one who is fundraising. It's just all too much work. You know, by the time you get to your 4th feature, let's say you have a business that's running at about $100,000 a year, and you have an assistant, and you have somebody to help with marketing maybe. But what I would suggest is one of the first things you do is that you bring on help with fundraising. Because the more that you diversify your portfolio, the more work you have to do, the more grants you write, the more foundations you contact, the more people you speak to, all of that stuff. I even see it with my client. I have a client, Mark Gordon. He's on his 2nd documentary. He raised $500,000 for his 1st documentary feature. Now he's making his 2nd documentary feature. And I already see it with him. He's a fantastic fundraiser, that it's time for him to bring on team. But it's always very difficult when you're making less than 100,000 a year to hire team. So there's this moment where the work gets to be too much for one person, but you don't necessarily have the money to hire help. But that's when you have to hire help. You have to start bringing on people who can help. And it's great if you can start, you learn fundraising, start training somebody with fundraising and start having them help you. So for fiction feature films, you're probably, by your 4th feature, you're probably making money from, you're raising money from investors. So with your 4th feature film, what would you say is going to be the most important aspect of your film that's going to help you get investors to invest in your film? Who wants to take a stab?
Star appeal.
Star appeal. And the word I use for star appeal is not star appeal, because I think of it as really, it's the dollar value of the actors. So celebrity talent all has, they all have a certain dollar value. So who was the famous person? Donald Glover. No, was it Donald Glover or the other? Was it Danny Glover?
I think it was Donald. It was Donald Glover.
Yeah, no, Danny Glover.
Danny Glover.
Danny Glover.
Okay, it was Danny Glover.
Yes.
So actually, that's a really good example. So Danny Glover, I'm going to make these numbers up because I have not the faintest idea. Let's say if we get Danny Glover in our film is worth $10 million. Okay. How much, I'm going to ask you this, Mario, because I do not have a clue. How much do you think it's worth if we get Donald Glover in our film?
You said if we get Danny Glover in our film?
No, Donald. Now Donald. We're gonna count down. Danny is 10 million. What about Donald Glover? How much is he going to be worth?
I don't even know who that is, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Let me pick somebody else. I just thought it was fun because I always get them confused, Donald and Danny. I'm going to pick. I can't think of anybody. Name a famous actor for me.
Denzel.
Michael
Denzel.
B. Jordan.
Huh?
Michael
What'd you
B.
say?
Jordan.
I didn't hear.
Michael
B. Jordan. Okay. All right. How much are we going to say Michael B. Jordan is worth in our
5
film?
million. minimum.
Okay, so Danny's worth 10, Michael's worth 5.
Oh, no. Michael B. Jordan's probably worth like 15.
Okay, let's call Michael 20 and Danny 10. All right. So let's say we get both of them. We get Danny and we get Michael. Okay. Danny's worth 10, Michael's worth 20. How much are we going to spend on making our film?
Probably that's probably 50 million right there.
Well, so Danny's worth 10, Michael's worth 20. How much are you going to spend on making your film?
Like I said, since they're the majority of the budget, that's the majority of the budget right there, is to bring in somebody with the name. You still could get by with 20 million to get the production done.
So you're saying we're going to make 30 million. Danny's worth 10, Michael's worth 20. We've got 30 million. You're saying you want to spend 20 million, Mario. Is that right?
Well, if I'm spending 30 million for them.
No, you're not. Okay. This is a very, very interesting confusion that happens. Okay. Michael is worth 20 million. Danny is worth 10. We are not paying them.
Oh.
No.
Yeah, I think I can still
They
go.
are
You can
worth together 30 million. Go ahead.
I would make
I
it for
was
10 or
saying,
less.
you can still make the film for around 70,000, 60,000, depending on how good your resources are. And then if you have that type of talent, you'll be making way more than you have put in production make the film.
I like the way you think. Okay. Now, I do not think that you're going to get Danny and Michael to come in your $70,000 movie.
Mhm.
I don't think they're going to do it.
You mean
I think
70 million, right? Not 70,000.
No, I said 70,000.
That's 70,000. Right. What's your
Because you're based on like how like the camera equipment and things used, and based on who producing the project. I wasn't really considering like maybe the production value would be more, but maybe the producer. Like I'm a producer that I know I can have resources brought down for and I can kind of crunch numbers. And if you're telling me that I have just Donald Glover and or whoever, Michael B. Jordan at my leisure, and I'm not in the hundreds of $1,000s bracket. I know if you give me 70 to 60, we can make something happen. And then, that's how.
I love the way you think. I love the way you think, because you're not gonna spend enough money and you're gonna make money. Very good. There is, however, a caveat that I don't think you're going to get those kind of A-list stars to come and be in a film at that micro budget.
Understandable.
I think probably it's going to be 5 million and up. Okay. So Mario, back to you. How much are you going to spend on your movie? You're going to make 30. How much are you going to spend?
Oh, well, no. Well, you talking about for my film that I want to do? Or
with Danny? No, just with this hypothetical. Okay. With Danny Glover and Michael B. Jordan.
If I had them to, I'll probably have to spend 50 million to get the movie done. If I have to bring in both of them, because they're gonna make the movie. They're gonna make or break the movie. So the money would come in for. I get
you. So your bid is 50 million. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Because I want to use multiple cameras. I'm not just going with one camera. I'm not going to waste their time. So
no. Anybody else? We're going to make 30 million. How much are you going to spend?
And
Robert, go ahead.
I wouldn't make it for more than 10.
Robert, go ahead.
Yeah. What about the fact that an actor who realizes the script is something they love, they really want to do, and there's not quite the funding there, can't they take a percentage of the back end to keep the cost down? And if it did make 30 million, they would actually make more money than if they took.
But how much? All I'm asking you is how much would you spend on making your film?
No more than 10. I wouldn't make it for more than 10.
Who said that? Oh, was that Mike?
Yeah, no more than 10. No way.
10 million. Okay. Yeah. Rocio, what do you want to spend?
I mean, depends, but I mean, I'm just saying, if you want to attract that kind of talent, I think what Joanne was saying, they will not go with, because even if I believe, even if they love the story, it's still the film is their, what's the word? Is their reputation.
Reputation, yeah.
Yeah,
They cannot, and even if they are your friends or
So,
whatever, they need
Rocio,
to
how
understand
much do you want to spend on your movie? How
if
much
I
you-
can make a movie, I mean, the film that I'm thinking the one that I'm writing now
No,
is
no, no, no,
probably
no. Play the
Okay.
game. Play the game with me. We've got
10
Danny
million, I
Glover,
mean, $5
and
million.
Michael-
I want to spend $5 million.
$5 million. Anybody else? How much do you want to spend? There's no right answer. So
10, I'm with Mike on the 10 though. I think 10 is no more than 10.
10 million. Okay.
Yeah,
Anybody
because
else?
you can still pay them good salaries, get excellent
Yeah.
production value, get good crew. You could probably make it for 5 to 7, really. I mean, if they love the script, you
Definitely.
can get them to do it for a good deal and talk back end points or something like that. There's a million different things you can do, but you don't want to spend anything more than 10 million, even if you know you can get 30, because you got to raise that money and you got to spend money to get that 30. So you need to keep the budget down as much as you can with those guys.
Well, I would say if I knew that I was going to make $30 million, I would be willing to spend more than 10.
Okay.
But the only thing then is how much would work for them, right? What kind of a movie is Danny Glover going to want to be involved in? What kind of a movie is Michael B. Jordan going to be involved in, right? So if I say I want to spend 10 million and they come back to me and they say, well, it really needs to be 20 million, I'm like, okay, I'm in. Why? Why can I say yes, I'm in?
Because you'll get 30 million.
Get
Right.
30. Yeah.
I know I'm going to get 30. Robert, what's your question?
Yeah, I want to know what you think of someone making a film, really good script, very topical, shocking subject, and having people who are unknowns, who can, maybe they know them on Broadway, or maybe they know them from, some role in a TV series. But there is such a thing as word of mouth on social media where people say, hey, you got to see this movie, and people want to see it about the subject, and they're not interested in so much the star, if that makes sense.
Okay, so that's a great point that you're making. So what I would say, you just described the business model I would use for my first film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe my second film. But if I made my first film for a micro budget, my second film for a micro budget, by the time I get to my third film, it's time to start moving up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So we're talking about our fourth film.
Okay.
And it's all hypothetical because none of you have made your fourth feature yet. But the next step up is to start looking for talent that is worth a certain dollar value. Now, I made up 10 million for Danny Glover, 20 million for Michael B. Jordan. I have no idea how much they're worth. Okay. How do I go?
Could I?
Oh, who is that? Mario.
It's me. Could I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So noticed I'm gonna use what's his name? I'm gonna use Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler did Fruitvale Station for I think 300,000. Then for whatever reason he got connected with his agent. Then they ended up getting like I think 20 million for Creed. And then he went from his third movie, which was like with Marvel Black Panther, which is 300 million. So when you
crazy.
No, but the thing is this, I noticed too with filmmaking, like the guy just said prior to me talking, if you have everybody invested, that's a part of your production crew and your talent, if they're willing to invest social media and put the word out, then how can you lose? You have to make sure that your talent as well as your production staff are invested in your script or your movie, because if all of them are promoting it, won't that make it very successful?
The way I see it is,
I'm
and I hate to be, I'm always saying my middle name is Coldwater, but the way the industry works is it's about the names. Now, Fruitvale Station, which was, I think Ryan Coogler is a very hard example because it's crazy what's happened with his career. And the only thing I can say is every time Ryan Coogler opens his mouth, I'm like, oh my God, that's a genius. I'm not a genius, but anytime he opens his mouth, I know he's a genius. But Fruitvale Station was a small budget film, but I mean, look at that. He got Michael B. Jordan. It's crazy, and then how successful that film was. You being from Richmond, that film meant a lot to us, right? That film meant so much to us, but it was technically a small film, but it just did crazy kind of business. And who was it? Robert just brought up about something that was a very topical, very shocking story, all of those things. And it really hit the zeitgeist. I'm pretty sure it premiered at Sundance, all of that just blew that film up, right?
I have a question.
It's still amazing that they gave him Creed. That was his next film. Did you see this movie?
Yeah, I said I have a question.
Yep.
So essentially, what you're saying is, regardless of where you're at, by your fourth film, you should have gathered all the experience that you have from your first 3 prior films, and to dedicate this fourth film to because you would still, I mean, of course, maybe if you can't or don't want to get that star talent, you still have that talent to do it and to challenge yourself as a filmmaker to get to the next level by seeing what you can manipulate with these 2 stars, or this star as the last step to try and because I kind of like compare it to like an Avatar, and I don't know if it's kind of a young thing, but you like to master all these things. It's like this is the final challenge to build up and blossom as a filmmaker and get to where you want to be, so you can make anything you want at your leisure. I don't know if that's where you were going.
I think that's very true. And the truth is that you could make your first feature for 40,000, as I said, your second feature for 100,000, your third feature for 150,000, and you're still growing in budget and what you can do with your production values and things like that. I still say that at 150,000, you should be reserving some of that money for a name. It's not going to be Michael B. Jordan, but it can be somebody who is worth some money that's going to bring some return on investment for the film. What I'm really talking about, though, is that the way that the industry, I don't like to use the term Hollywood because there's many more films around the world than Hollywood, but the way the industry works is it's based on the names. So once you start wanting to talk about $5 million, money, any number with $1 million on the end of it, there's got to be names. Otherwise, the film will not bring the return on investment that the investors need. Rick, did I see you just raise your hand?
Yes, you did. I was waiting.
It was out of the corner of my eye. I was like, what is it?
I wanted to say that as in any rule, there's always an exception to that rule. As in the film Blair Witch Project, Paranormal Activity, The Circle, and Cube. All were independent films. And I met the guy who did this on extremely low budgets. I met the guy who did I think it's either the Circle or the Cube. I think it was the Circle. And he said that budget was done with $500. No big names at all. It was just a great film. And it took off. Now, Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity, what made those films popular was the fact that they got sneaky. They went on the social media and bragged about how good the film was before it came out. And that drew crowds to them. And none of those films had anybody big in it.
No. And those examples that you gave, Rick, I'm very aware of them. There's a more recent one called Skinamarink. I'm going to put it in the chat because it's such a funny name. And it was made for $12,000. Skinamarink. And one of the sales agents that I work with was the one who acquired that film, and it's made certainly more than $2 million at this point. However, I consider these anomalies. So they are films that just blow up. I'm not saying that they're not brilliant people behind them that make sure that they blow up and all of that, but it's really an anomaly. And so it's true, it's real. All the examples you gave are absolutely correct. But the way that the industry works is that once you start to want to get bigger budgets and make bigger films, it's based on the talent, based on the value of the talent. So by film number 4, I think you want to start thinking about who are the names I'm going to get. Now, maybe it's not going to be Michael B. Jordan, maybe it's not going to be Danny Glover, but there are going to be names that are going to be worth the money. Okay, here's a question. My clients should know the answer to this. How do we find out the real numbers for Michael B. Jordan and Danny Glover? Because I made up those numbers, but out there in the world, those numbers actually exist. The numbers that they are actually worth actually exists. How do I find out those real numbers?
Sales agents and distributors might tell you.
Yeah, international sales agents. So international sales agents, their job is to sell films. So if we go to them with our film, we say we have a film with Danny Glover and Michael B. Jordan, they can go and pre-sell that movie in all different territories around the world. And we can probably make our 30 million before the movie comes out. So pre-sales, once we have those names, we can pre-sell the movie. And I don't know if anybody here has had experience with pre-sales. Has anybody had experience with pre-sales? It's because even though I work with sales agents and I know sales agents, I haven't been able to go to them with a Michael B. Jordan and a Danny Glover movie. Okay, so this year I have 4 films. I mean, my clients have 4 films going into production. I was telling you about the Puerto Rican film, 1.3 million, and 3 other films that are $3 to $5 million movies. And we are working on landing the talent. One of them has landed Rutina Wesley, who is almost A-list, and or she is A-list, and the other ones have a variety of actors in them who are all worth money. And we're continuing to try to land higher level actors to be able to make sure that we make the return on the investment for our investors. But you can go to an international sales agent, and depending on who you go to, one of the sales agents that I work with charges a fee to give you that number, but they do the research. International sales agents basically have access to databases that cost money to have access to. So if I went to this sales agent and I said, well, I have a film and it has this name and that name, not names that we would recognize, he would say, okay, I'll charge you money and I'll find out how much those actors are worth. If I went to him and I said, I have a movie with Danny Glover and Michael B. Jordan, he'd say, where do I sign? And he would start selling it, pre-selling it around the world. Okay. So when you get to your 4th film, I'm not saying you're necessarily going to be at the point where you're getting A-listers, but you're getting actors who are actually worth money. And if you go to investors, you can say to them, I got this actor who's worth this much, and I got this actor who's worth this much, and therefore I know how much to spend on my film and how to ensure that we're going to make money on our film. Does that make sense to everybody? Rocio, let me.
I have a question.
I know it's very, very hard for filmmakers to grasp this, not because it's rocket science, because it's not rocket science,
Yeah,
but it
no,
does make sense.
but yes, I understand that. Yes, and it is difficult. But I have a question. You're saying that if we attach this A-list, a name list to the films, you're saying that it could be the pre-sales, correct? It could be
Mhm.
pre-sales.
Yes.
My question is, would that happen before the film is made?
It could.
That's what I wanted to know. If we
Yeah.
already have an agreement that they will be, part of the casting. If
Yes.
actually that, okay, that's what I wanted to know.
I have a colleague, his name is Sir Marco Robinson, and he made a movie. It's a fantastic story, this movie. What's it called? Legacy of Lies. It's on Netflix. It's called Legacy of Lies. And they actually started out by raising a $1 million grant from Ukraine to make a film in Ukraine. This was before any of us even knew where Ukraine was.
Mhm.
You know, and the funny thing is that if you go and watch Legacy of Lies, it's actually a film in which there are Russian spies and the Russian bad guys. But when I saw the film, it was before the war. It just seemed like a fun spy movie, but actually it's based on a lot of real stuff that we all know about now. So they got $1 million grant in Ukraine to make the movie, and they contacted every A-list actor that they could think of to play the action hero. And everybody said no. Everybody said no. Everybody said no. And then they got in touch with an actor called Scott Adkins. And Scott Adkins was not A-list. Would somebody mind looking up Scott Adkins on IMDb Pro and see what his star meter is on IMDb Pro? But Scott Adkins was super famous worldwide as an MMA fighter. And so he had millions and millions of followers in many, many countries around the world.
Oh, wow.
And so they took Legacy of Lies to Cannes, and they pre-sold several territories and raised $5 million for the movie.
881.
881. So he's now A-list, but he wasn't 881 4 or 5 years ago when Legacy of Lies was made, you know, but they were able to pre-sell $5 million for the movie, and the movie hadn't been made yet. But it's sort of like a bad example, because Scott Adkins, but one of the reasons, well, there were 2 reasons that he said yes to being in the film. One was because he was booked in another film and it got canceled. So he was free. That was one reason he said yes. And the second reason was he had never played the lead in a movie. He was in movies. He was an action star already in movies, but he'd never played the lead in a movie. So he got to play the lead, and being in that film took his career to where he's now 881 on IMDb Pro. Thanks for that, Katrina.
It made sense.
Right. So it was a win-win, because it took his career to the next level. And he does a really good job. If you watch the movie, given that it was his first lead, he does a really good job. He does a good job of playing the action hero. So you go to sales agents, you find out the actual dollar amount that your actors are worth. And in the documentary world, you're not going to be attaching actors, but you have the capacity to include celebrities in your film. So you might have a celebrity as a voiceover, if you have a voiceover in your film, or you could have celebrities actually appear in your films. And one of the hard things that's happening in the documentary world right now is that the bigger players are really only buying documentaries that are about celebrities, even though documentaries are kind of booming right now. But in terms of sales, like CNN films, for example, you know, they'll say, well, bring me a film about a celebrity, otherwise they're not really interested. So when you get, so let's go back to our example that I made up. Michael B. Jordan, $20 million. Danny.
I have a question associated with A-list acting.
Yes.
I was a little confused because I was told two different things that seemed contrary.
Mhm.
One said that you should try to get the actor first, then raise the money based on getting that actor signed.
Right, right.
The other way says you should try to get the money first and then try to get the actor second. And I tried, because I forgot to mention my film is SAG signatory. We got SAG.
Mhm.
So I did approach Lawrence Fishburne's people about this film, and they liked it. They thought it was interesting, and he was interested. But what he said was, when you raise the money, give me a call.
Come back. That's right. This is a great question. And this is the place that most people get stuck. So what happens is that the A-list actor wants, or let's me rephrase that. The A-list actor's agent doesn't want to have them sign on to a project until all the money is in place and it's for real. So once you get to be in the top 2,500 or 5,000 on IMDb Pro, you're basically A-list. Definitely if you're in the top 2,500 and possibly in the next 2,500 as well. So those actors are working a lot. And if I book you for April the 1st to April the 15th for my movie, and then I don't raise the money, now you've lost the capacity to be in something else. So the higher level actor that you're after, the busier they are. Lawrence Fishburne is probably booked until 2027, you know? But so my friend Jamin O'Brien, who works with A-list actors all the time, he says the hardest thing about working with A-list actors is scheduling. That's the hardest thing, because they're booked on this, they're booked on that, and you have to be able to compete. Now, his budget films are usually like $5 to $8 million. And he's trying to compete for actors that are playing in much, much bigger projects, you know? So this is a very hard thing. So one of the things that I have learned, because now I'm working with investors who are looking for projects to put money in, and it's pretty straightforward. They all want A-list actors. Now, I think that I could probably go to them with something maybe a little below that, a little below that top 5,000, but we still have to be able to show that the film is going to make money. So if I want to go to an investor, I have to be able to say actor A plus actor B plus actor C plus actor D is going to add up to more money than you're going to put in this film. That is the simple equation. And what I have also seen with my films that are going into production in the next year is that we had to have money in the bank to be able to talk to investors, to be able to talk to actors. We have to have some money in the bank. So usually we have at least $500,000 that we've already raised. So we're back to, how do we raise $500,000? How do we raise the first money? You know, and in each case it's different. So I have one client who happened to put $3 million of her own money into a film. I have another client who won the $1.3 million grant. I have another client who raised a little bit from an investor, a little bit from an investor, a little bit from a grant, a little bit from a tax rebate, a little bit from, to add up to that 500,000. The other fourth one, they raised that from investors. And then once you're at that $500,000 level, then you can really be able to speak to people. So I think, Rick, to answer your question, it may be that we don't have the full amount to get Lawrence Fishburne, but maybe we can start by having something, and then be able to use the name Lawrence Fishburne to raise the rest of the money. That's the hard piece, though, because if an investor is going to put down $5 million on a movie, he's going to want some paperwork that says, I have Lawrence Fishburne. And if you don't have Lawrence Fishburne, that's hard to be able to show that. But if you can get Lawrence Fishburne to sign on, then you're definitely going to be able to get the investors. I have a number of investors who have now said to me, if you bring me a project with an A-list actor, I'll give you the money. Not give, I'll invest the money. So, and that's just the way that it is out there. That's the way that it is. And so this place that's really where we're at, we're on our 4th film. We want to get to the level where we can start raising maybe $2 million, $5 million, $10 million to make a movie. It's always going to be based on the names. Always, always, always. And so if I go back to where I started tonight, how do we prove the excellence of our project? Right? So, and I think Smoove said earlier on, it's about the whole package. Well, if I have a script that has won competitions, if I have a package that shows that I have these actors and I have this director and this DP and these, you know, because for somebody who has already built a huge career, and somebody earlier used the word reputation, we have to be able to show them that if they step onto our set and they're involved in our film and involved in our business, that they are going to be safe. And I mean safe in a number of different ways. You know, there's the very famous line, is it Gloria Swanson, who says, I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. So we have to be able to show an actor that we're going to be able to make them look good, even if their role is looking bad. You know what I mean? So we have to be able to show that we have a strong enough team that the actor is going to be able to look good. A colleague I met, she met a bunch of stars in Hollywood, and now she has a business providing security to films. And she said a lot of filmmakers, when they start wanting to work with high-level talent, they don't realize that they need security. There has to be police or you know, security guards, that kind of thing. And she said it's not only for their physical safety, it's for things like, can you imagine if you have a star and somebody on set is shooting footage of them and posting it on social media? Sorry, who was that?
No.
I don't know. You know, they're on set and not thinking anyone's looking, and they're picking their nose, and somebody shoots footage of it and puts it on social media. So safety is not just about physical safety. It's about being safe to come and be part of an experience. They have to be able to feel safe. And that's physical, you know, all about social media, contract-wise, business-wise, everything like that. All of that has to be in place, which is why by the time you're at your 4th feature, you're going to need to have a bigger team, because all of these things have to be taken care of and all have to be looked after.
I'm glad you mentioned the word contract. It's me again. Because SAG is rough with, oh God, the paperwork you have to fill out with SAG is unbelievable. It's a book. And now with the new rules, I've read the new rules, but I don't know. That's kind of rough right now.
Yeah, SAG paperwork is a bear, and they're also tough. And you have to, when you have a SAG signatory movie, you have, like Rick's, you have to basically take the money to pay all of the actors and put it in escrow with SAG before you make your movie. So again, this is a reason why I use the number $500,000. I think you have to have $500,000 in the bank to be able to make a movie where you have A-listers and that kind of thing. Now, if you're going to be making your fourth movie, this does not mean you have to go to that level by any means. You do not have to go to that level. But these are kind of the stages and the things that you want to think about to be getting to that level. So I forgot to say at the beginning, I usually have this class for an hour and a half. And so it's coming to, it was 7:15. Do we have any general questions? How is everybody feeling about making their fourth film? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Do you think I can do it? What do you think?
I'm still trying to shoot my first feature, so I'm a student of the game right now, trying to soak up as much knowledge as possible.
Awesome, awesome.
I have a quick question, and that's the thing that you just left off on, is the escrow. How difficult is it to get the money and put it into escrow so therefore you can continue the negotiations with the actors? How difficult is it to do that?
Well, when I was giving the examples of the 4 films that I have that have over 500,000, everybody's doing different things. So putting that first money is always the hardest. It's always the hardest to raise the first money in. So when you are setting up how you're going to pay back your investors, you usually want to weight it a little bit so that the first money in is paid better than the last money in. One of my friends who raises money for films was raising money for Mission Impossible. It was like Mission Impossible 4 or something like that, right, this year. And so much money had already been raised so that the investors who were coming in were basically, not making money out of it because they were so late in the game. But investors may very well want to invest in Mission Impossible because Mission Impossible is going to make a lot of money, and B, they may just want to be involved with Mission Impossible, right? But once we were way at the end of all the investors, there was very little upside to them investing in the film. But the people who came in first, they would benefit more. So that's always going to be the case when you're working with investors. But when I gave the examples of my 4 clients, they all raised money different ways. One got a grant, and now we're dealing with financiers to cash flow that money, which is going to cost a fortune to do that, but it's the equivalent of first money in. Then another client, they raised money from investors, people they knew, starting at $25,000. The other one had personal money of her own, $3 million that she put in, and then raised the other 2. And the other one, it was a mixture of things, some producer cash, some grants, some tax credits. That's really going to be the way most people are going to raise the money to make their films. A bit of this, a bit of that, to make that pie, that cake, So depending on where you are, you want to think about what are the tax credits that you can use. But then even if you get the tax credits, then you may have to cash flow the tax credits, but that can be your first money in.
I have a question.
Rocio, go ahead.
How difficult, I'm getting my own answers in my head, but I just better ask you, how difficult in your experience has been for, especially independent, filmmakers like us, to be able to attach a A-list, actor, right? Actors. At the same time, the actor, I'm thinking, will be looking at, okay, who's going to be directing it, what they have done before, what kind of films they have made before. I'm just going through all that in my head. So I was wondering how difficult actually it is for that, for us as a film, as an independent.
It's very, very difficult, but I'm trying to have you imagine this is your fourth film, right? So I'm not suggesting you try it on your first, although Mario brought up a really good example that Ryan Coogler managed to do it on his first, although I don't know that Michael Jordan was A-list back then, right? But he still got this unbelievable actor who was already on his way. I actually don't know the story of how he got them in Fruitvale Station. But you'll see, for example, films that get into Sundance. I don't mean finished films, but if you apply to Sundance Institute, the script competition is in May. So you have a script, you send it in, if they pick your script and then they kind of put you through, it takes a couple of years, you go through the script process, the directing process, the producing process, and Sundance will help match you with A-listers. So I'm half Trinidadian. So in Trinidad and Tobago is a country of 2 islands, right? And Tobago is about this big. Well, Winston Duke is a Tobagonian actor and an A-lister. And there was a Sundance movie that was a first feature that was being made by, I don't remember his name, guy with an Asian name. And Winston Duke ended up in the movie. Do you know what that movie is, Emily? Do you know what that movie is?
Not off the top of my head, but I'll find
Oh
it.
my God, it's so good. And it's a real indie film. Probably was a couple of $1 million. Not 9 lives, 9 something. Anyway, it's fantastic. And it's a real indie film, strange.
9 days.
9 days. Very strange, very, very wonderful. And Winston Duke is in it. But that happened because Sundance made that happen. Director Smooth.
Yes, I have a question. Through my 6 years of filmmaking, I end up through my connections, my gathering equipment, and my resources, developed like 2 production teams in New York and Atlanta. And I'm shooting. I'm more of an initiative type filmmaker. I do write all my scripts, but like I said, through my years of filmmaking, I'm able to greenlight my own projects and put them in production with I believe to be industry standard. How do I go about then still trying to raise money if I already started the process of shooting and trying to leverage my production teams to get more funding?
Oh, that's great. So in the documentary world, we're very familiar with this. There are 4 stages of filmmaking. And in documentary funding, you always raise in one of the 4. So the first one is research and development. So you're past that stage, right? You can't raise any money for research and development. The next one is production, which is where you're at now. So you could raise money for production, but the next stage is post-production. So you could raise money for post-production, often called finishing funds. And then the 4th stage is impact and distribution. And especially when you're making your first film, it's very unlikely that you'll get money for the first 3 stages, but you can get money for impact and distribution, depending on the topic of the film. So if you take those principles that are from the documentary world and apply them in fiction, you can do the same thing. So you can raise money for finishing funds. I had a client one time, and we raised money for his first film by writing a letter, an email, and sending it to people he knew, and we raised the money for the film that way. And I always want to, huh?
I said, I tried that one. It
Oh,
doesn't know too well, but there's a lot of different options that I know works out.
Well, I mean, the work I do is I'm a fundraising expert, and I teach filmmakers how to raise money, but I find a lot of filmmakers I meet have tried raising money and they were not successful. But I've been raising money for 30 years. So I've raised millions and millions of dollars, and I know how to raise a little bit of money, and I know how to raise a lot of money, and I teach people that. But filmmakers, try to raise money and they're not successful, but they haven't had any training, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So one of my mantras is no fundraising without training and without support, but because it can work, but it's much better if you have some help. So that's what I do. So anyway, I always want my clients to do a crowdfunding campaign because it's a really good way to promote your film and get the word out. But he had already raised the money, he'd already raised the film. So finally he said, okay, I'll do a crowdfunding campaign just for $6,000 for some money to go to festivals and things like that. I said, fine. So he put up this crowdfunding campaign for $6,000, and in a week he'd raised $6,000. He said, well, what do I do now? I said, well, you have two choices. You can raise more money, because obviously if he raised $6,000 in a week, he could raise more money than that, right? Or I said, you can raise more money, or he said, I really want to go on vacation. I said, so why don't you go on vacation? So he went on vacation, but I feel as though, if you're in production, you can definitely raise money for post-production, or you can raise money for impact. Depends on the topic.
Yes, right now I believe it's like it will be post-production and during productions.
Yeah. But when you think in those four phases, it makes it better in your communication with
Yes,
people.
it does.
Right. We've already finished production. Now we're going into post, and we're going to finish by January or whatever it is, right? And you can be very, very specific, which is really helpful when you're raising money. A lot of times filmmakers will say, well, I'm making a film and I don't know when it's going to be finished, and I don't really know how much money I need. And by then, anybody who was had any interest has backed away and left. Yeah.
I never heard of that last one you mentioned. What'd you say? Finish and distributing? I never heard of needing to raise money for that before.
Oh, yeah. Of needing. Did you say needing to raise money?
Yeah, needing to raise money for that part. I always thought you made the deal with the distributor, and that was, other than advertising or marketing. If you make the deal with him, if they cover the advertising and marketing, then that's just money they take out of their percentage, in addition to their percentage from the profit of the film.
Yes, well, that's one revenue stream, right? So one revenue stream, but in the documentary world, we learn a lot of other revenue streams. So I have a client right now. He's not a filmmaker, but he's making a film, and he was planning on, getting distribution and having it on Netflix or whatever. And I said, well, there's this other way that you can do impact for your film. And he particularly has a dream of teaching in prisons, teaching entrepreneurship in prisons. So we can raise money to have him take his film and teach entrepreneurship in prisons. We can raise money to do that. So when we finish the film, we're going to probably have a space of maybe a year to do that kind of work. And so when you have a documentary that has a particular topic that I'll give you another example. So my client, Andrea Kalin, she's making a film called A Capital Case, and we're raising about $300,000 to make that film. But we're raising another $150,000 for impact and distribution. And the goal of the film is to have conversation on the right and the left. A Capital Case, it's about January 6th and the riots and all of that. So we're going to be raising a very significant sum of money to be showing the film in coffee houses and museums and libraries and things like that. And when you have a film, even if it's a fiction film, when you have a film that has a certain cause or topic, like in that case, it's politics. I've had clients do it. When I have a client right now, she made a documentary about toxic racism and sexism at the highest levels of the corporate world. And she's starting to sign 5-figure contracts to take her film into an organization, show her film, and talk about the topic in an organization. We're not even thinking about distribution yet for her film. She's building a whole business around it.
But I'm still not quite understanding, why do you need to raise money to go into distribution?
Because
It's-
you,
Sorry,
oh, that was me.
Rocio, yeah?
Well, I think it's because there are expenses attached to it, especially if I believe you can spend that money for those expenses, either where you're gonna play the movie, you know, like where the movies are gonna be played, those coffee houses that you're saying that they might give the space, or at the same time, that would be also part of like either traveling, right? I mean,
Yes. Well, the other-
transportation fee, I mean, stuff like that. I'm thinking, I don't know about the accounting yet of that part.
The thing I want all of you to think about is that there is an expense called me, the filmmaker.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as like right before you, because I've done like independent filmmaking and doing these films and these documentaries on my own with my production teams. There is a variable where you may be able to get a distribution and do everything as far as like you got the script, the screenplay, but you didn't go into production. And as an editor that's going into production right now, you run into some financial hardships that might hurt you as the editor, as somebody that may, before this project is getting mailed out to distribution, that you need to finish this off stronger than you even started it to make sure this is getting by. And maybe some filmmakers in the gray area won't talk about these problems and these deadlines that they have to face and going through financial hardships themselves because maybe they spent a little too much beforehand or wasn't even compensated in the first to get the project to where it needs to be. So you don't want to fall short of the expectations of the distributor or whoever you had obligations to doing. So I'm guessing that's why it's like a fine line. You can get funding to post and finish off.
One of my clients now gets paid $10,000 every time he goes somewhere to speak. Right? So it's not about, you know, I mean, and actually he needs that money because he has a whole team that he's, you know, but I'll give you a really good example I like. There's a very famous film called Bully, documentary called Bully. Does anybody remember this film? It was about bullying in middle schools. And I think it was the first film. It's a good 12 or 15 years old, I think. And it was the first film that really showed bullying in American schools. To this day, that film, Bully, has 3 full-time staff members whose job it is to get that film into the hands of kids and teachers and middle schools.
What's the name? Can you put the name of the film on our chat?
I believe I heard it. I believe I may have watched that film in middle school I may have.
Yeah, and that film, when we talk about distribution and impact, that film was used to change legislation. That film is used to teach teachers.
And it wasn't shot crazy too. It wasn't like it was this crazy shot film. It's just the importance and the message and they finished off it like it needs to be finished off, and it'll forever make money.
That's right, and it's a film that's been changing people's lives ever since it was made in, thank you, Emily, 2011. So for 12 years. So 12 years later, it has a staff of 3 full-time people whose job it is to get that film out and for kids to see that film and for teachers, because a lot of the problem, as revealed in the film, if you watch it, is that the teachers are not addressing the bullying that's happening. So it's a particularly American thing, I always like to say. It's an American thing. It doesn't happen in other places, not like here. But so a film can have more more methods of distribution other than just the traditional distribution. But that was a great question, Rick.
I have a quick question, because this is my first time being a part of your Zoom. And you keep saying clients. Is there a chart how much you charge to take on somebody as a client?
Well, what I do, I discuss that when I have a call with you, and we put in the chat, I believe, we put my calendar in there. Emily just put my calendar in the chat.
Oh.
So we talk about it, and I see if I can help you, and I offer you my services if I can help you. And my job is to help you raise money. My job is to help you raise money. So as far as I know, there's no such thing as film fundraising school. There's no film business school out there that's going to teach you how to fundraise. And as I said at the beginning, you know, I really believe that filmmakers have to learn how to raise money. You know, there's just not, it's just not going to work to keep saying, oh, I'm going to save up, I'm going to save up, I'm going to save up and make a film. You know, there's a whole business to it. There's like, Rick, this whole question that you just asked. When I told my client, Lawrence, who you met, who's making the documentary about CMOS, you know, when I told him about this whole vision of being able to take that film into prisons and teach about entrepreneurship, this is a dream he's had for years. And he didn't know about that. So now we're going to build that into the whole thing about, Ernest. There are a couple of people who haven't said anything, but
doing classes actually.
Huh?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I just wanted to mention that in prisons that are already doing classes, entrepreneur and business classes, they already have that. And I think what you just said about having a friend who wants to be a movie, right? About how to teach inside the prisons.
He wants to use his movie. So he had this dream, but he didn't realize that we're going to do it with this movie. The movie, probably before it goes into either theatrical or a streaming release, he's going to do this other impact distribution.
Okay, no, I think it's a good thing, but the reason why I'm mentioning is because I do have a friend who is actually, something happened to him, unfortunately, and he is an inmate, but he has masters and all that, and he's teaching a business class, actually, in a rehabilitation center. So that's why when you mentioned that, I said, yeah, they are doing that. They are implementing classes. So if they have films, probably they will be interested in buying it as well.
Well, you know, many prisons, one of my clients, is making a film about San Quentin. And I had another client who made a film about San Quentin. It was a documentary about a music program in San Quentin. So, you know, there's a lot. I am particularly interested in justice reform myself.
Well, I actually did my first documentary, and I won here at the Fort Lauderdale International Film Festival in my category. It's a short documentary I had to do as a thesis for Miami-Dade College, and it was about a program implemented, which was a college students going to study into prison with inmates. And it was the first time that it was implemented here in Florida.
Nice.
So now it's really short, and people want to, and I have so much footage. So now that you're saying that I can actually fundraise to make that into a feature documentary, because I have so much that could be done.
It's not necessarily the topic, it's the methodology.
Okay.
Right? The methodology, which is to take a film and make money showing your film, speaking at your film, or teaching around your film. That's a particular methodology. And it's absolutely standard in the documentary world. But if you're making a fiction film that fits certain criteria, you can do it with a fiction film as well. And I often ask my clients who are making fiction films, how much do you want to be involved with the marketing of your film? And there's kind of a continuum, and some people are like, absolutely not. You know? And some people are like, oh my God, I would love, like Lawrence, oh, I want to go and talk in prisons and show my film. And yeah, so people are somewhere on that continuum. And I have a client who made a film about her own story growing up with the Grateful Dead. She's a Deadhead. And but it was a very painful story that started out with that she was almost going to commit suicide. And she was basically saved by becoming part of this community. And she cannot go out and speak about her film because in the film she talks about the people who raped her when she was a child, and they're still at large. And so she's on some level still living in hiding, even though she made a movie, which was a huge emotional challenge. So for her, going and marketing the movie and going and talking with them, absolutely not. So, but you all have to decide that for yourselves, you know, but, you know, you can make a career out of screening your movie, speaking about your movie, and teaching around your movie. You can make a career out of that. So go back to, that was a great question, Rick. All right, so Ernest, I just saw that you're calling in from Ghana. That's so amazing. You've been very quiet. You've been very quiet, but I really appreciate you. You're probably, Emily is in Trinidad, but Ernest, you're even further away because you're in Ghana. What time is it? Is it like 1 a.m?
Yes, it's 12:42 a.m.
Wow. Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Well, I hope you enjoyed the class.
Yes.
I'm finishing. I just keep talking. So
Joanne, I would love to make a documentary on you one day as well.
Oh, thank you so much.
I would love to.
I have an interesting story actually. And oh, you know what? I want to put in the link to sign up for my book, Emily. Did you put that in the chat?
I will do it just now.
So today was my big deadline for getting my final proof in for my book. So I have a book published January the 1st, and it's called Getting Your Film Funded, Produced, and Distributed Globally. And it also includes my story. So I'm in there. But so the book is as of while we were in this class, has now gone live, and you can pre-order it. And we also are looking for beta readers who will agree to read the book, and if you liked it, give us a review on Amazon. So I had a coach for my book, and my book coach wants me to get 100 beta readers. I have 4 so far. I have friends who are not filmmakers, but they're like, oh, I want to read your book, Joanne. But it's for filmmakers, absolutely. So we'd love to have some of you sign up, and yay, Katrina. So for the people, Emily, you and I have to sort this out. We'll talk tomorrow, but for the people who say they want to be beta readers, I want to send them the whole book and ask them to write a review on Amazon. So this month I have a whole month to get my 100 beta readers. So that's my
I got you, Joanne. I definitely would love to.
Thank you.
No problem.
You. Well, I'm gonna close up. So anybody who is interested in working with me one-on-one, please sign up for a Filmmaker Success Breakthrough session. It is no cost to you. It's a really fun call. Whatever comes of it, something will move you forward in your filmmaking career. So please sign up for that. I'd love to
tomorrow morning, so I'll be there.
Get the link on that
tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, yes.
Yeah.
It's the lot. Did you get the link, Mario?
I don't have it.
Who said I don't have it?
Rick,
I just posted.
Rick, you're already my client, Rick.
I know, but we haven't. Oh, that's right. You called me on the phone. Okay.
Rick is
And now
locked
we
in.
have to raise some money, Rick. Now we
Huh?
have to raise some money.
Yeah, working on that.
Yes, we're working on that. All right, does anybody have any last question? Otherwise, I'm going to call it a night. I didn't hear from Anthony either. Are you all right, Anthony?
Yes, I'm all right. I'm familiar with some of the financing, like private equity, debt
Mhm.
financing, and negative pickup. Who in their right mind would do a negative pickup?
Well, that's pre-sales, right?
That's basically like when they did Superman the movie, the producers went to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers said, you cast it, you get the $50 million, you financing, and then they would reimburse them.
Yeah, I don't usually talk at the studio level because it's not my thing, you know.
Mhm.
I'm always about independent. So a negative pickup, I think, is the same thing as pre-sales. So if we go back to our film where we have Danny Glover and Michael B.
Mhm.
Jordan, and we go to a sales agent and they say, for real, Michael B. Jordan's worth 20 million and Danny Glover is for real worth 10 million, which I just made up. I have no idea, but let's say that's for real. They will put that in writing and I can take that to the bank and I can borrow the money.
So a letter of intent, I've heard some people say a letter of intent is not really worth much. Some people say
No.
it is.
It depends on who the actors are.
That's true. Basically says if you have the money and if I'm free and available, I will do this movie.
No, I'm saying if you have Danny and Michael attached to your movie, you take that to an international sales agent, they will come up with the actual value of those actors, put it in writing, and you can take it to a bank and borrow the money. However, the costs of the borrowing are so high, you don't want to do that. So it's better to get private equity to
True. I mean, the nice thing about if you did finance, the only pro of debt financing is that you don't have to share the profits with anybody. You keep it all. Only you have to share with the distributor.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't make money, then the bank takes the film.
Well, if you have Michael B. Jordan and you have Danny Glover, you're going to make
That's
money.
a different story. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, there's one film I've known, and this was like 40 years ago, and it basically had no names, and the two names that they did have, I mean, young people wouldn't know them, but it was financed by a studio, and it was Star Wars. So they weren't really big names.
I just don't talk studios because I just don't
Studio
see
at all?
what it is for us. I don't see how that's of value to us to know how to make Star Wars. That's all.
True.
Mario had a question.
Quick question. I was just looking at your schedule and it seems like everything that I looked at for your time availability is what I'm teaching. You don't have anything because it's from 7:30.
Email Emily and she'll sort it out for you. Emily, so it says on the page, it says email tfl@filmmakersuccess.com if you can't find a time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Emily, who is the boss of me, will tell me when I can speak to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to thank Emily. Emily is a client of mine and she works for me and does a fabulous job. And so yeah, I'm not allowed to touch my calendar. Only Emily can touch my calendar. All right, I keep saying I'm going, but then I realize there are people I haven't spoken to. So I'm like, oh. All right, I'm going to go. Bye.
All right,
everybody.
bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Joanne.
So much.
Thank
Bye.
you very much.
I'll schedule the meeting. Bye.
Holidays.
Bye.
Oh, I have a
Two.
class in December, actually. I have a class in December coming up, which is geared to documentary filmmakers. But it's useful for everybody. It's about fundraising. All I talk about is fundraising. So I have a class in December that I'd love to see you there. 14th and 15th. And Emily isn't going to be here. I'm going to be by myself. I'm going to get into all kinds of trouble. Bye, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks.
Good
Good
night,
night.
Dana. Good night.